Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce Dustin Hollywood. Dustin Hollywood is an AI filmmaker. And yeah, Dustin, I'm so happy that you're here. The first question I'd like to ask is what would you say you do?
Whew. Uh, create things out of thin air. I mean, I'm an artist by trade, so but that kind of like means that's like a catch-all for everything. I do a lot of different things, to be honest. I have my magazine and media company and brand, Naked. So that takes up a little bit of portion of my time, but I've streamlined a lot of that with AI now. So, I don't have to do as much as I was having to do previously. I'm also a filmmaker, as you said, which is I've made films, music videos, and things like that before, but never kind of really took it to the next level until I was introduced to like AI and I got like farther into that and understanding like what I could really do and unlock, with those tools.
Would you say the AI artist niche is like small right now at the moment, or is it pretty big?
Uh, that's a great question. I think that it depends on your level of um importance. And by that I mean like, are you talking about people like me? Or are you talking about people who are just like flirting around with it? They do it for fun, or they may use it like once, but they're not trying to be like they're not trying to make that like their like career path or their distinction as an artist, like I'm trying to do. People are making completely different things than they did prior. Even if they weren't an artist or they were an artist, like their styles have adapted or changed or altered. Some are the same. Like mine is very much the same. Because I trained all of my models and Laura's that I use on my photography. I have like a million photographs. So it's like I was born for this with my own data set. It's kind of awesome, you know?
You told me that you kind of got introduced to AI. What was that moment like when you realized that AI was going to be this big thing that was going to change the industry?
Yeah, so that's so interesting because I don't think it happened at once. I think it kind of happened over time. The more I got into it, I mean, I'm the type of person that when I do something, I like to know every square pixel of it, like that level of detail. And I mean, I'll give you a good example. When I got into AI art, I started with the hardest thing you could do, and it wasn't technically on purpose, but I knew that it was difficult and it was fully customizable. So I started with automatic 1111 and stable diffusion. And that's not typical. A lot of people started, from my understanding, with Dolly and Midjourney. But for me, like the customization and the ability to be able to like the first thing I learned was how to train a model. It wasn't even to really like do any art.
Wow.
you know, I really just wanted to make the models of my work, and then I wanted to see like what I could do with that. And I'm not really sure why I did that. I think it was more I think being a photographer, I was mindful of the fact that like this code is trained on all of our work around the world that's on the internet. So for me, maybe it was kind of like I think part of it was like I wanted to be distinct in my style. And then also I wanted that to transfer from my photography to digital AI stuff.
Uh, do you see it as like a positive or a negative change for art and
Definitely a
filmmaking?
positive. I'm not a yeah, definitely a positive. I'm not a doom and gloomer. I think that human beings can be stupid, and most of the time we are. I mean, just look at the state of things. Like we perpetuate our own madness. So, like I think AI can help change that in a lot of ways. Because if I'm being like logical about this, the only way to change human nature is to like eliminate emotion. We're not gonna do that, okay? Like, and I don't think anybody has plans to turn into a robot anytime soon. So I think that to offset like a lot of difficulties in life that are human made, they're human error. Like the justice system or how people treat one another within business, and all these things can be like changed. Like, and the way we do that is to make them open source, and then so that everyone has transparency into what's going on and how this thing is making its decisions. So it would be like truly open source, like Stable Diffusion is, right? Like you see the code, you know what the hell it's doing. There's no like hidden doors there where like somebody's blocked off part of the code and you're not allowed to know about it, you know? So I think that is going to replace a lot of these institutions that are basically people that are biased. Everyone is biased. Everyone. You have an inherent bias. It's there. Like, and it's about it comes from how you were raised and your environment. Like that. That's in the information that you're exposed to as a human being while your brain is growing. Right. Like all those are baked into the cake. So it's impossible to escape that. So there is no fixing that part of it. Okay. So the way you do it is you eliminate decision making that is things that are critical to society or life. So the justice system, judges don't need to be in charge of that. If everything is being judged by the letter of the law, an interpretation of that, then that should be done by a computer, not a person who's doing it hidden inside their brain, and there is zero transparency. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, there's more cases I feel like than not where things are not done properly nowadays. And it's all because of people. People are the problem. And if you just eliminate decision making things on some of these, obviously it can't be everything, but some of this stuff is done very regimented, you know? So like that the law is a very regimented thing. There is no ambiguity. It is either illegal or it is not illegal. And based on the information provided about the circumstances, in these models will are about to understand nuance, especially with GPT-5, right? Like I think that that is our future technically, and my film is about a lot of that, to be honest. Um, and how we deal with those kinds of things, these like cosmic changes to our psyche, you know. Uh, I'll give you an example. One of the under overarching but underlying themes to my film. It's not explicitly said, but you understand it because the whole film is premised on it, right? So the only time you're told about it is in the opening sequence. In the opening scroll, I explain kind of where we are in time, and this takes place 150 years from now, right? But I took a different take on the future. Everybody is always talking about, oh, Terminator's going to show up and kill us all, right? So or AI is gonna take over and mind control us all, or the government. So I kind of was like, no, I'm an optimist and a futurist. So my take on it is, I think humans are gonna get what the hell they asked for, and by that I mean that humans are basically gonna wake up one day and we're gonna have a universal basic income, and you are no longer gonna have to do labor jobs because we've eliminated that out of life. And because of AI, in quantum at some stage, and robotics, when those three combine, oh man, that's ASI right there. Like so, like I think that what will happen is that all resources will become abundant because we're going to be sending bots out into the solar system to get a lot of this crap. And we've already proven that we can design tech to withstand pressures from other planets and actually land on other planets. So I actually think that will become something very much more easy. Everything that is technical in the world is going to become cake, a cakewalk. I mean, look at coding now. Yeah, coders, those that want to challenge themselves and think outside the box are the ones that will survive. It's the same thing with artists. But I don't look at these things like they're bad for society. I actually think they're much better because it's going to kick society in the ass. It's going to be like, look, you can't just go along to get along anymore. Like you were born with a consciousness in a brain. Use the damn thing. Stop making excuses that life is so hard. I mean, my life has been very, very hard. I'm not going to go into details about my backstory, but I've suffered tremendously and I've like persevered, and I just don't believe in people making excuses for things. The excuses are excuses to not do things. So chalk that up to whatever you may. I think everybody's dealt a bad hand. It's one way or another. some are dealt good hands, but they also deal with tremendously difficult human experiences as well. Maybe some of them don't. Some are evil, some are not. Like, human beings are a mixed bunch, So I think overall AI is going to change the way that we are. It's going to make us, but it's going to be the thing that we've always asked for, whether you're religious or you're not. Like everybody's asking for better life, and AI is going to do that. Now, if you want to be lazy and on the sidelines and just bitch and complain that life is going to get too hard for you because you got to learn something new, like I don't feel sorry for you. I'm sorry. And the people that can't do that, we've always taken care of those people in society. It's it's part of, especially I don't. Are you in the United States? Are
No,
you
I'm
here?
in
I
South
mean,
Korea at the
okay.
moment.
Oh, awesome, awesome. So I don't know, but so in the United States, like charity and stuff is a big thing here. Like, people give a lot of money. We give a lot of money. We definitely give a lot of money around the world too. So I don't know. I think that like people that can't do that will be taken care of like we've always done. Society's always kind of tried to do that, at least in modern society. I'm not talking about like the last 100 years because we all know how that's been. Like, right? So, and it's all different experiences in different places of the world. I'm sure like where you are, it's completely different perspective too, right? Like I can't even imagine what day-to-day life must be like there because I haven't experienced like living there, and I've definitely experienced living in the United States. It's humongous. I feel like we have like several of your countries all combined into one, right? It's like that big. So here we have like a bunch of different culture, which is cool because we get to experience like how different cultures from different parts of the world because everybody comes here as immigrants or comes here as a visit. I wish that like it was easier for I guess it is in a lot of ways, but it's really expensive to travel out of the United States places. I don't know how it is places into the United States and back, but it's really expensive going from here outside and coming back. So that's one of the reasons I haven't done it a lot. But I'm hoping to change that. Actually, I have a goal for like the next 2 years is to travel a lot more out of here, out of this country. I go to Mexico and I've been to Canada, but I haven't really gotten to go anywhere else. And I really badly want to go to Asia. I really want to go like your part of the world. I really want to go to Africa really badly. I'm always inspired when I travel, and it always like sparks my imagination. It's funny, like every time I go somewhere new, some part of that place always ends up in my artwork. I don't know. It's kind of hard to describe. Like some theme or part of that place inspires me, and I end up making something based around that inspiration. I don't know. It's kind of hard to describe.
What's like your specific workflow utilizing AI? Like, oh, you use this for planning, you use this for creating. What's the workflow like?
Ooh, it's crazy. In a short answer, I'll go through it with you though. But I'm warning you. It's very convoluted. Um, and a lot of it. I guess I'll just preface this with the fact that I do a lot of all of this in my head. Um, and I don't know why I'm able to do that, but like, yeah, I do a lot of this workflow and stuff in my head. So because with my ADHD, it becomes really hard for me to focus on the tools sometimes, and I bounce around a lot, and that actually is where my ADHD comes out really badly. But I don't know. I talked to a lot of people that have the same problem as me, and they're all telling me the opposite. It's like they're bad in their head. But for me, it's like in my head is like where everything's organized and all makes sense. So I think up stories all the time, and then I just keep them in back there, in the back of my mind, like for whenever I feel like they're needed or it could come up. And I also take a lot of notes in my phone, so I use Notepad a lot, and I use it for everything actually. So Notepad is like my go-to pad, and I have a Moleskine pad. I still love doing things with pen and paper because it just feels good. I don't know. I like the feeling of having a book that has all my dreams and notes in it too. And I also think it's cool because it's tangible as an artist. like you collect those things, and then one day when you're old and you have all of these things, you can like pass them on, or God forbid you get lucky and you make something of yourself. You have all of these really awesome parts of you when you are nothing, right? So that's another part of it too. I'm very traditional in that kind of way. um but after I kind of start, let's say I get an idea and I'm like, this is the idea I want to do. Um, the first thing I do is I am a big fan of mind maps. A big fan. I do it with everything, whether it's my brand and business or a project I'm doing with clients or a film. I just love being able, because I think it's like it's so simplistic but so deterministic, right? Like it's like, oh, here's a bubble, and here's a bubble over here. This is how it connects with this line, and these are gonna go over here. So I think it's like in my head, everything flows like that anyway. So it makes sense for me, and I really love them. So I'll start with a central point. I'll put my idea in the middle, and the next thing I do is I'm like, okay, when I've already thought about this idea, it's already got characters in it. It's For me, it's like second nature that that is a part of it. Even in my art films that may not have anything, they have a subject and an object point. So those become the character. And um like in The Last Artist, in the film that is coming out, the one of the main characters is a translucent white cube that's the AI, and it basically floats around and records everything because it's hard to fathom, what tech will be. It was easy in the 50s. I mean, if you look at a lot of back then, like people predicted the future, right? All the things that kind of come about in one way or another. We have flying cars, we have self-driving cars, we have iPhones, like all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, like we have AI, like you know what I mean? Like damn, like it's just so like we're living in the future that everyone predicted. Like it is happening now. So, um, that being said, like all of this stuff is kind of like to bring it back to my workflow, it's hard to think about what the future is going to be like, right? So for me, I used everything. And with The Last Artist, I kind of like tried to utilize that and then also tell that in the story. So in the story, life, art mimics life. So, and vice versa. And for me, the story kind of revolves around a character. His name is Tanaka. And then, like, and the way I kind of approached that was like, I had this character, he needed supporting characters. So I kind of developed out those characters. And when I do when I'm doing these things, I go really far back and really far forward. And by that I mean like when I'm writing a script and I develop out like every character has a story and they have a backstory and they have a biography, they have nuance. Um, I even design out like their clothing and characters is supposed to have throughout the film, and when it changes, and vice versa through other characters. Um, so I kind of build all of that out in a mind map, and a lot of this is all in my head because I don't put it all down on the map or all down on paper. I think some of it is kind of from me, anyways. As the artist, the person developing the story is kind of inherent. So it's like almost like I already know. I know that without having to think about it. And so once I got that done, then I start breaking out scenes and I storyboard everything. I think it's so important. Like it's probably one of the linchpins of the entire film is the storyboard, because without it, you're just mindless. You're a mindless zombie, just kind of wandering around, thinking up and doing whatever the hell comes into your mind, with no focus point, right? Like there's, or at least focus points, I would say, because throughout a film, you have transition and you have development and growth. At least you should. It doesn't matter what the film is about or what the premise is. um, all of those dynamics are present. Uh, they some may be more prominent than others, but they're all there. And your thinking should always be the same, right? Like, who is this person? Why should people care about this person? Like, what connects them to the audience? How can the audience relate to this subject matter, right? And for me, I wanted to put that in the story. So in the story, I actually talk about it's 150 years from now. Well, all of these art companies, they've all become a conglomerate, one conglomerate, and it's called Mobius Corporation. And essentially, what they do is they eat up all the art in the universe, our solar system, whatever, and they basically buy it like catalogs. They buy people's talent, and they record it with an AI. The AIs are so advanced that it's hard to fathom. So to kind of the way I wanted to, put that into a more simplistic way for the audience was to make it this cube where it is just essentially one large sensor. Everything about it is just one large sensor. So it's recording everything that's taking place in reality within a certain sphere around it. Um, so throughout the story, so it starts off. The story starts off that he's having a nightmare. He's been contemplating this because he is the last holdout that has not done this, right? Um, and then he goes into. He wakes up from his nightmare, um, and his girlfriend is there with him, and he recently went to the doctor and he got some he heard something, there's something there. I don't want to give it away because you find out about it later, but I put these things in the film just the way some I would do a regular film where you have to it builds to something, okay, and all these different Easter eggs and different things foreshadowing are all like leading to something, and it's something that is not no one is going to be able to figure out because I have more than one plot point running simultaneously. And I really got dynamic with this film because I really kind of wanted to go way out. I really wanted to take everything I knew about filmmaking and apply it. And because what better way to showcase what AI is truly capable of in the right hands, in the right storyteller, tend to than to showcase that in every way possible that makes sense for that story. And so, you know, I kind of mimic that in the way I utilize the tools too. So most of it is done with Runway. Um, and once I kind of get all the scenes and the storyboarding fleshed out, I like to go back into I like to start fooling around with image generation. I'm not a text to video guy. I don't like the fact AI is not that good with prompting yet, in my opinion. And there's no legitimately structured um, guideline to prompting out there. It's the Wild West. Everybody does it a different way because the code can always interpret it. Like, right? It's kind of a weird nuance that's kind of come up that I don't think anybody was. Maybe some people that designed it knew this would happen, but you know how AI is. It's surprising people on the daily, and I think that was one of the things that is surprising is that there is no. I think it's one of the reasons too that people haven't. A lot of these companies haven't given out very stringent guidelines to prompting. I mean, Midjourney may be one of the closest, and I know Stable Diffusion is it's very straightforward with its prompting too, but it's not too because you can throw characters in there and nobody knows what the code's doing with those characters. I don't care what anyone tells you, they don't know. They don't know what the hell this shit is doing. Like so that is awesome to an artist because for me, that's everything. I love to throw a wrench into a machine and see what happens and like how that destruction may cause creation. You know what I mean? So I experimented a lot with these tools and tried to push them to their absolute brink. And the cool thing too is while I'm making this film, AI is developing so fast that I have so many new tools coming out all the time. And because like people seem to really like my work, I've been very blessed in the way that I've been able to get access to a lot of tools.
Do you
And
have access to Sora?
I don't, but I'm a little bit critical of OpenAI.
Is it because of the data source?
For me, so I come from the fashion and music world. And in those worlds, business is very convoluted and it is very nuanced and biased. And knowing that, in Hollywood. I lived in LA for many, many years, and I have a lot of friends in that world, and I know of that world. I've worked with people in doing projects in that world, even if they weren't films. So, I know how these things work, and it's one of the reasons I never really want to go down the filmmaking world is because there's a lot of ass kissing and just like it's very gate kept and I just didn't want to spin my wheels forever and then not make any headway, right? And I just didn't think that maybe a lot of it is too I'm in my head. I kind of have imposter syndrome sometimes a little bit where I feel my work is not good enough. Every artist has that to an extent, I think, though, but like, yeah, with Sora, it was kind of their approach. For me, the way that OpenAI is going about this is very monetarily driven, and they're the least transparent company of all of the OpenAI company, of all the AI companies, in my opinion. So, um, I just think they're genius marketing. At least I'll preface that with they were genius marketers because um, I think they suck now. I mean, look what they did. They just had an executive go out on a major news outlet, do an interview, and basically tell the whole world that they stole all their artwork to train the model that they're now going to make people pay. And not only they're going to make people pay for it, they're going to take them to Hollywood. So I think people are getting really high hopes for Sora, and a lot of that is not going to come to fruition. So if people like me, I read between the lines because all I do is live and breathe and eat all of this AI information all day long. And just because I do AI art does not mean that I'm not like very heavily into using, the AI as a tool for automation and everything else it can do with GPTs and all that stuff, right? So, like the enterprise version of AI, not the generative part. And for me, I'm like, okay, well, there's a reason that they're having the developers roll it out on their pages instead of on the companies. I mean, they're putting it on the company's website, but they're not really putting it on the company's like page. They're having the devs kind of do it. And I think I'm really good at marketing and you know seeing it through the lens of that. I think it's genius in a way because they're having the people look at the devs like artists, they respect them in that way. They're developing this. So no bad juju or vibes is going to be flowed their way. You know what I mean? So in a way, they took the people most respectable in the company and had them be the face of Sora. Not only that, I feel like Sora's capabilities are being wildly exaggerated. Yeah, it's really cool. It's really stable in its diffusions, but they're not telling us how many times it takes to get those diffusions perfect like that. Are they? They're not. They're not telling us that information. What if it's 1,000 videos to get that one video? You know, and and doing being in that if we're talking about that, why the hell would I pay for that service if I got to do 1,000 generations or even 100 generations to get one good one? Because they've already told us that this is extremely expensive on compute, haven't they? So putting all this information together that they all trickle out into different areas or don't say, you just have to kind of know and look at things in the perspective. Like I think I'm different in that way because I'm from that world and I do those things. I market things. That is one of the things I do with Naked. We market artists and brands and companies that are doing art stuff. So you know I very much am aware and look at when I see advertising, that's all I can look at is like how it was made and what its message is. You know what I mean? Like it kind of sucks in a way that I can't really enjoy a lot of creative advertising in that respect because I see what it's doing. It's trying to sell me something. So you got to look at it through that lens, man, and read between the lines. And then on top of that, they took it to Hollywood, and the people that they had showcase it was people who are not even using it. These are people who don't even give a shit about AI. Most of them are bitching about it, and they were bitching about it in the strikes. So, to have like to do that, and then to they were all about it too. It was like they were proud of it. They were like, "We're going to Hollywood." I don't know. I find that like off-putting and I felt like with this technology there was a place and there was a place to restart. You know, tech has gotten a lot of bad rap, a lot of bad rap on a lot of different levels. And I've been in tech my entire adult career life. I mean, as an engineer, it's inherent in what I do. I can't do it without it. I mean, I could. I had to actually learn the hard way. They made us do that. I had to do it with a, protractor and pencil. My boss was very hardcore about that, like making us understand like what that we should be lucky using these tools because I started being an engineer in 2003. Uh, these tools were still very low level on the software could do a lot, right? But it still was very restrictive. It ain't like it is nowadays.
Mhm.
And
And how do you stay updated along like Sora and different things? Because you said you live and breathe AI. How do you stay updated?
so I follow the people. Yeah, so I follow the people I should that are the people. So I follow the companies, all of the companies rolling this stuff out. I have like alerts on. That can and nowadays like having an iPhone, all of your alerts are not as annoying as they used to be. I can't speak for like, Android and stuff, but for iPhone, it's much easier to put on alerts. I didn't used to do that, but I have alerts set to like a lot of different things now. Because they have an alert center. So I don't have to get alerts all day long, right? I can have all that go into a folder and then I can get it like twice a day, especially on the iPhone. So that's what I do. And then I basically just run through all that. I do it in the morning and then I do it in the evening, and I just stay apprised. I like reading I listen to a lot of tech news, and I like listening to a lot of podcasts while I'm working, and and I have music running at the same time. So it's kind of wild that I'm even able to concentrate. But yeah, I mean, I just love scooping up information. I've always been that way. So for me, it's like really enjoyable. I don't know, it's kind of sickening in a way, like because I mean, like my friends always say that it's like, damn man, you're like a repository of just nonstop Google, you know. And so for me, it's like really enjoyable. I seek out reading. I try to read as much news as possible. I mean, the news that's the stuff I don't want like corrupting my mind. I try to not. I used to read a lot of politics stuff, and then from both sides, so that I knew how they were lying to us each other about us, like or like lying to us about each other. um, I don't know how it is in South Korea, but here we only have two political parties, and they're all liars. They all lie about each other to try and win. So, and they treat each other like crap. So nowadays it's like really terrible to listen to that kind of stuff. So I try to stay away from any of that, and I just focus on like tech and science. And yeah, I love information. I gobble it up, man. I don't read as much as I used to when I was younger. I kind of miss it, but it's just because life has become so much more fast paced. I think that's one of the downsides to society and technology is that like it's overwhelming, and I don't think it's necessarily a good thing that everything is happening as fast as it's happening. I think maybe human beings need to step back and like not just focus on like what AI tech technologically will be able to do that will harm us, but like what we are doing to ourselves by just developing these things too quickly and not letting our minds or our bodies like adapt to the changing environment. I don't think that a lot of information and kind of studies going on about that. Look at what social media did to us. It didn't do what it was intended to do. It did the exact opposite of what it was intended to do. It's made I mean, I don't know how old you are, but I feel bad for you if you're in your 20s. Like, I feel like people in their 20s have I feel like they are getting dealt a lot of overwhelming changes all at once and being born into them. Not just that you guys had it a certain way like I did, or millennials and Gen Xers, or even, God forbid, boomers, my parents. Like, we were all like got eased into everything. Like, the internet, that was, I mean, they say in video games, like, yeah, no, that took a long time, man. Like, that took my whole adult life to really come to where it is now. And then now, like, but the last 10 years, like, social media has basically like corrupted people like in a lot of terrible ways. I am an entrepreneur and a capitalist through and through, man. Actually, I'm a libertarian, but I'm a capitalist through and through. I think good capitalism has like made so much prosperity in the world. And it plays to the strengths of a human being, the competitive nature of human beings, and the teamwork, and how like we need each other, like we need that societal bond. And what better way to do it than to compete to become better and grow as individuals and as a society, right? And as a species.
Just talking about entrepreneurship and business. You said you use AI for your client work. How do your clients think about your own using AI, and what type of clients do you get for your AI work?
Yeah, so business wasn't my focus, and that's where I was going with that. But most recently, I've been bombarded with tons of work. So it's like, I'm not I'm an opportunist when it comes to work. So, um, I couldn't say no. That being said, I think I can't. Some of my clients are private, or the projects haven't been finalized, so I can't delve into some of it. But I can talk about some things like music videos has definitely been something that I even before I did the Lit Reezy um, music video, which is the one that won the award in Vegas during the Imagine AI Live conference. Yeah, they loved it. It was so cool. It was such a good experience too. I thought it was so cool that like I love that they aren't just focusing on the business of AI. Like they're focusing on the creative aspect as well. And what cool way to do that than to mix like the old world or the current artist world, with music and stuff, and then like bring them into this and be like, give these artists a chance to show you what they can do, right? And I thought it was really cool that they and the AI music video show and Hookist and Neural Frames and a couple of the others that sponsored it. I thought that was really awesome because that is like setting the pace. Everything is so new in AI, right? Like we're only a year old. We're a year and a half into this now. And anything is possible in this industry, right? I think it's unlike any industry. That's the only thing I can apply it to is the internet, because the internet had so many possibilities, right? It wasn't until we got further down the line that like we understood its restrictions and its level of development output, right? Like we're limited to websites, and then eventually we got smartphones so that we were able to migrate the internet into that technology and made it much more adaptable and mobile, right? So that opened up new. So technology always opens new doors to other things. So I think, with work, it also applies. How you would go after work as an artist, you should do the exact same thing as you would do with AI. I don't think there's any difference in that. There's no nuance there, I don't believe. Maybe like in your process on how you develop the work, but there shouldn't be or doesn't have to be any change to like the type of clients you would go after. I think you should go after whoever the hell you want to go after. I actually mentor a lot of younger artists, and I do this through my Patreon. And one of the things that I tell them is, I'll give it to your listeners. One of the things that I tell them is that, like, think outside the box. Like, don't do what everyone else is doing. And by that I mean like think about what you want and like what is positive and good for you. Like, be the change that you want. Like, what kind of work do you want to go after? There are lower levels of that work because everybody's always focused on the big goal, right? They're like, I want to work for Apple. I want to make a movie for Apple or for 20th Century Fox, or whatever it is for your genre of art and whatever it may be, right? Like you have an ideal goal that's the end point for whatever you're doing, and or achievement, right, that you want to unlock. And I think like one of the things that I tell younger artists is like that's not how it works. You got to start low, set your bar on the ground, and if and then think about that bar. Like now that you've lowered that level, what's that look like for the client that you would go after? It looks like the mom and pop shop around the corner. It looks like your local ice cream store. That like maybe your neighbor owns. It looks like even bigger than that, local like fast food or restaurant. But I think like small businesses is where it should start. And I'm a huge supporter of small business. I'm a small independent business. Naked is very large numbers wise, but we're a very niche, um, streamlined business. Even at the height of when I was hiring and had employees, we only had like 10. Okay. And you wouldn't believe even back then 10 people can do a lot, you know,
especially with
especially if
AI.
you're very good. Yeah, I well, yeah, especially now with AI. I mean, damn, I don't even. I don't. It's just me. And now I hire freelancers whenever I need specific things done. But AI is really like I've kind of enterprised AI in a way for me with Naked where I have little to have to do with it. I make decision making and approval processes, but that's basically it. I'm a checkpoint. Um, and then I've built out the infrastructure under that. So there's like managers managing other bots. You know what I mean? I've definitely got a swarm mentality going on for my company. Um, but it's cool that we can even do that now. You know what I mean? With this kind of tech, I think it's super cool. And I think that that also lends itself to being able to do more business wise. You know, the type of clients you can go after to, you have more tools to be able to reach more people and to be able to offer them more, right? Like not only can you make like video edits for somebody, you can make a whole narrative commercial for them, and you can use ChatGPT to help you write it. Maybe you're not a good writer, you know what I mean? Like there's GPTs out there that can help you from people who are good writers and they made them. And I think the GPT business is definitely going to flourish. It's the new Apple Store for sure. It's going to replace the Apple Store, and I think that's why Apple is so freaked out. You know?
What would you tell yourself if you could travel back in time to your 17-year-old self? What would you say to him?
Oh man, party less. Don't go into music. No, that's not it. I only say that because that could have very well ended my thing, but I made the right decision. So, but let's see. That's a great question. I've never really thought about that. I know. I mean, I've heard people ask that question, and but I've never really thought about it. I guess I would say, don't burn bridges. That's actually one of the best pieces of advice for younger people. Um, don't be so emotional. It's very hard because we have a lot of hormones in us at that age. All through your 20s and all through your teens is hormone central, man. And you don't even know how it's affecting you. Like you don't even know that you're doing these things or that like your perception is skewed because of these chemicals that are going off. Like, so yeah, I guess I would say that like the best pieces of advice that I can give is to younger people or artists is like or just especially younger people is that like I know that everything can be very emotional, and I think like taking your emotion out of things and really trying to separate that from like how you interact in the world is probably like the smartest best thing you can do because like things that you do when you're younger are very hard to take back. You first impressions are everything, and while I may agree with you, an unpredictable in nature, an emotional person that is unpredictable or has very firm stances and has no nuance to their understanding of how the world actually works is detrimental. It's just detrimental. It's detrimental to your own success and your own human growth. It's detrimental to your logic and reasoning understanding because you're skewing basically your perception of how real life actually works. Um, and I think a lot of the last couple of years, while I agree with all of the things that young people are fighting for, and I support them, and I do support them physically, and in other ways too. But like I just think that like that doesn't get talked about a lot. And as a mentor, I think it's really important to emphasize things that are pitfalls for younger people. I didn't have a mentor coming up, and I made a lot of mistakes being too emotional about business deals and my way or no way and thinking that I was being disrespected or some things like that. I think that nuance is probably one of the most important human characteristics nowadays because everything is nuanced. Like everything, especially with how connected we all are. Before, none of us had to deal with each other. You know what I mean? And I mean that in the most positive sense. And by that, I mean, we were not talking to one another on the internet or putting ourselves out there every single day to be judged and to be judged and get that feedback back. So it's opened up a whole can of worms, especially with social media, where now like kids are only focused on becoming popular, and like they will say and do whatever the mob does because they don't want to miss the boat on that, and everything is revolving around views and likes, and that is not the most important thing. And that may get you, in the door. It may even get you success and money, but that will not last, because real success is built on talent and discipline. And I mean, I'm not saying that you're not going to make it being an influence or something, but that should not be your focus in life. It definitely shouldn't be. What should be your, I actually think that we need more tech people. We need more people doing the hard things. Like we need more engineers, more software developers. We need people actually that build things, not just go on the internet and dance around to things. And while I don't see anything wrong with that, I think it's detrimental that so many people want to do that because it's easy. That's why they think it's easy, and because it feeds on the neuropathy that we have about being famous. And and that plays to the most base instincts of a human, is wanting to be accepted. And I mean, I could have a whole long conversation with you about psychology and how all of this stuff intertwines with all that. I really love that kind of stuff. I really love science. And it plays into a lot of stuff that we all do on the reg, marketing, advertising. All of that is psychological. But yeah, the one thing I would say, just to wrap it all up, is don't be overly emotional. Take a step back and really embrace nuance and wanting to embrace people that don't believe in the same things that you do, because the only way that we change the world and that we all keep growing as a species, not as like what this country or that country, but as human beings, the only way that we stop doing, like, that we are able to get out of this funk that we're in and get out of our own um self, like, love, like, because we're all egomaniacs. I think social media has made it worse. We're all kind of narcissists in a way that you kind of are separated from other people outside your family or close friends. So you don't care about a lot. You thought social media would fix that, but it didn't. It made it worse. Made people even more self-involved, right? And so yeah, that's my advice. Get out of that. Try to separate yourself from that as much as possible. Like, never say no to a deal. No business project is too small, because you'll learn something from it. No failure is too bad or not worth going through, because those are the points in life that you actually learn how to grow, like, from failure. Are you going to just let it defeat you, or are you going to rise above it and become a better person for it? So that's my advice.
I'm very thankful
Yeah.
for your time, Dustin.
Thank you so much for having me, man. I really appreciate it.